There is only 7 days left until the full global launch of Solo Leveling Arise, so just before it does release, I'm going to go over all of the hunters in the game and rank them all from best to worst so you can know who you're going to want. And so here we are, this is the tier list right here. We have the S, A, B, C, and also the D tier as well, of course. And these are all the hunters in the game currently. Obviously, by the time the game actually does drop, Shahane will be in the game, so obviously I won't be able to rank her here, but I will in the future. So let's kick things off with possibly the best hunter in the game, which is Emma Lawrence. Emma Lawrence is a fire tank character that is honestly a jack of all trades, as the length of her passive should be all you need to know in terms of how good she is. But what I can also just quickly explain now is that she has a ton of break damage, amazing AoE damage with her skill Burn Up, as well as a ton of heavy break damage with Flame Cleave, her other basic skill, and she's also has a very spammable ultimate being Burning Pride, which easily is just going to put her in the S tier. For me, I think she's the best hunter in the game. She's the hunter that I've found the most use out of so far within the game, so yeah, for me, she is S tier, definitely the best hunter in the game in my opinion. Alright, Choi Jong-in is up next, and I don't think Choi is going to be available on the global launch, as him and also Silvermane Baek Yoon-ho are probably going to need reruns, unfortunately, as they were limited rate banners in early access. But that's besides the point. This is not what we're here to talk about, as Choi Jong-in is an amazing just flat DPS character, as all he does is just do a ton of damage. As although he can't crit thanks to his passive, he does benefit a ton from attack increases as well as defense penetration. And not only that, thanks to his passive, when you use your ultimate End of Days, you can then reset your skill cooldowns of Flame Spear as well as Rain of Flames, which have immensely high damage ratios as well. That can go from 1410 all the way up to 2115% once you get it to level 10. And Choi is one of those characters that you've really just got to be able to use him to see how good he is, and if you have used him, you'll know that he is an immense DPS, so straight in the S tier. Seo Jiwoo is up next, and she is probably she's definitely in the top 3, I'd say, in terms of best hunters in the game, I would probably say, as she is also just an amazing character in general, being a water tank, which means she succeeds at beating one of the hardest bosses and one of the most annoying bosses in the game, being the Gatekeeper of Hell, Cerberus, and she also has very, very spammable basic skills, which I believe is thanks to her passive as well. So then, of course, Seo Jiwoo is also going to go into the S tier as well, another amazing character, definitely one of the best. Hwang Dong-soo is up next, and Dong-soo is also another skill spammer, as what he basically does is spam his skill Urge to Kill, whilst also stacking his passive Impulse to get Impulsive Revenge, so he can get a bunch of defense stacks, so then he can do a bunch of damage as well. But because, yeah, that's pretty much just all he does, nothing too special, nothing too crazy, whereas like characters like Choi Jong-in has like a bunch of like defense shredding and defense penetration, so he's got a bit more to him. That means Dong-soo for me is only going to go into the A tier. Alright, Woo Jin-chul, and he is actually a free SSR hunter that you get completely for free after logging in for 7 days, I believe it is, and then you also get his weapon on a different level. And just like Dong-soo, he is also another win character, but it's a tank this time, and as opposed to being a fighter. And Jin-chul is also basically based around spamming his basic skill Mediation of Power, so he can reduce his cooldown of his other skill Iron Fist, which can then be used to do a bit more damage and also break damage. Yeah, because that's pretty much all he does, it means, yeah, for me, I'm going to put him in the B tier. Alright, Min Byung-gu is up next, and Min Byung-gu for me is definitely like the best supporter in the game, definitely one of the hunters I've used the most, as he just does everything in terms of a support, so yeah, he's kind of insane. As on his first basic skill, he applies healing to your whole party, I believe, as well, and then you can also increase the amount of damage enemies take through the punishment debuff from 5% all the way up to 15%, and this can also be applied through his support skill as well, so it just makes him amazing with Jinwoo. And then finally, his ultimate Heavenly Blessing is just fantastic, as you can apply damage dealt increases, crit rate increases, as well as crit damage increases, which is just unbelievable. So for me, easily, Min Byung-gu is also going to go into the S tier. Alright, so now we have the regular Baek Yoon-ho, not the Silvermane Baek Yoon-ho, and he is a light tank character, and this Baek Yoon-ho is actually really good, as if you took a first glance of his kit, you wouldn't really think it would be anything too special, as pretty much all he does is just do a ton of break damage, whilst also just applying defense decreases, which is also very good, by the way. But it's also when his passive comes into play is when he actually does show his true potential, as it pretty much says the White Flames effect is applied to the last hit of all skills excluding his basic attacks, which will include his core attack as well, I believe. So it's pretty much anything you use apart from these two, you can apply that effect. And then when you've got 3 stacks of those, you can activate Violent Explosion, which deals damage equal to 400% of your defense, and then will apply a defense decrease to the target as well. So for me, Baek Yoon-ho is also going to join Dong-soo alongside on the A tier. So yeah, another very good character. And then we have his counterpart, which is going to be Silvermane Baek Yoon-ho. This time, Silvermane Baek Yoon-ho is a dark fighter character and is all about spamming getting his basic attacks, thanks to his weapon, as also one of his basic skills being Extreme Attack Beast Form. And that's pretty much all this Silvermane Baekhyunho is about, to be honest. It's just increasing the amount of damage your basic skills and also your just basic attacks and core attacks do. So he's a pretty easy character to use in that, but it's also very risky. And that's pretty much it for Silvermane Baekhyunho. I'm always normally torn between whether he's either up here or here, because I haven't really had that much of an opportunity to test him myself, but from what I've seen that other people do, he's like, his damage is really, really good. But I'm gonna base it off of my own experiences with him, and like that he's good, but it's just like, I haven't really felt the amount of impact from him as I have with these 4 hunters right here. Alright, Lim Tae-gyu is up next, and he's probably one of my favorite characters I've used in this game so far, as he's a Dark Ranger, which is, and honestly, Rangers are actually really good in this game, as not only do they excel at doing either a good amount of CC and stuff like that, or just high amounts of damage, but they also have a decent amount of break damage, as he has light break damage on his skill Shoot and Maneuver, as well as heavy break damage on his second basic skill Typhoon Fire, as well as his core attack, of course. And pretty much all Lim Tae-gyu is about is getting his ultimate, which is Quick Attack Typhoon Fire, so then you can get this sniper mode buff to them, where you can basically get 8 projectiles that are just crazy powerful damage. But overall, like, he's nowhere near being one of the best characters in the game, which for me makes him A tier. I do think he's worse than Baekhyunho, so that might bump up Baekhyunho maybe towards the end of the tier list, but for now, he's going to join everyone else in the A tier. Alright, and I believe now the final SSR hunter in the game is Lee Bora, and Lee Bora is a pretty cool, unique character. She's got some really cool animations and stuff, but what she really excels at is applying this charm debuff, which basically increases the damage that enemies will take by 15% for 15 seconds, so it's very similar to Min Byung-goo's punishment debuff. So when you stack her debuffs with Min Byung-goo's debuffs, it means you just do just a crazy amount of damage. And not only that, she's also really useful for if you want to create a mono dark team, for example, as she can put down this enhancement circle, which will increase the dark element of damage done by 10% for team members standing in the circle, which is always really good. So nothing too crazy, nothing too amazing, but I think when it comes to seeing the big damage numbers, I think she's going to definitely help you, being one of the best characters in the game. So yeah, she's nowhere near on the level of Min Byung-goo is, but she's still very good, so A tier. Alright, and on to the start of all of the SR hunters, and Song Cheol is going to be the first one, and I think Song Cheol is actually not too bad. You get him at the very start of the game for free, and my only thing that I would say is like really good about Song Cheol is his skill Hellfire, as well as his support skill Weakening Attack Hellfire, as pretty much what this skill excels at is actually being able to group enemies together to be able to bring them all together so you can do a ton of AoE damage. So for me, that's going to put him straight in the C tier. Nothing too crazy. He's a character that's going to be really good early game, and then will fall off quite fast towards the mid to late game of your journey instead of leveling a rise. Alright, so next up we have Ana Ruiz, and Ana Ruiz is another water ranger, so she's going to have some break damage, but she's also built around doing damage over time effects thanks to her poisonous zones that she applies, as well as her corrosive poison debuff. And that's literally all she does, and the easiest way to apply this corrosive poison is with her ultimate, so again, it's not going to be very consistent that way. So yeah, overall, I'm really not a fan of her at all. I don't really see myself ever using this character, so I'm going to put her in the D tier, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know down in the comments. Alright, Nam Chae-young is up next, and she is probably one of my favourite SR hunters that I've used in the game. She's actually really, really good, as what her sort of kit is all about is actually just freezing the enemies, as she can freeze on her basic skill, as well as her QTE skill, her support skill, and then also her ultimate, which means you have a ton of accessibility to freezing your enemies and stunning them for a good amount of time, which for me overall just makes her honestly infinitely better than anyone than someone like Ana Ruiz, as I don't really see why you would want to use Ana Ruiz over anyone like Nam Chae-young. So honestly, I'm going to put her in the A tier because I've used her quite a lot, and she's also going to be very good for the Cerberus, which means she'll also be fantastic for that. And yeah, probably because, yeah, I don't think Nam Chae-young is on a similar level to Silvermane Baekhyunho, so I'll probably also bump Silvermane Baekhyunho all the way up to the S tier as well. Alright, Han Song-yi is up next, and she is all about putting these things called umbral weapons on the floor, which she pretty much does with everything on her kit, being her basic skills, as well as her core attack, her ultimate, as well as her QTE as well, I imagine. Yeah. And pretty much all you do with her is you place down these weapons, then you can use this skill called Retrieve to then bring all of those weapons back to you to then, and then basically as they're coming towards you, they'll then damage all of the enemies near you to then do damage. Which for me is just not crazy good. It's whatever. It just requires a lot of setup for you to do. I think they are or already have buffed it. I'm not too sure. But overall, I mean, yeah, I'd probably say the C tier, to be honest. Alright, Juhi Lee, or Lee Juhi, whatever you want to call her, and she is up next. And unfortunately, I mean, she's a free character, so it's understandable, but she's just not really great at all, as her passive just increases team members' HP, she heals and stuff like that. I believe she applies attack increases with her first basic skill as well, although it's a very, very small amount, so it's not really that great. And that's pretty much all she does. All she does is heal, and that is literally it. I think she recovers MP as well, so that is going to put her straight into the D tier. Alright, Park Byung-sik is up next, and he is a wind fighter character, so yeah, I think already he's definitely going to be nowhere near the level of Dongsu, as yeah, just pretty much he's another defense scaler, and all he does is do damage, and that is it, which for me makes him practically useless. So yeah, D tier for him. All right, next up we have Park Hee-jin. Park Hee-jin is definitely one of the better, if not maybe the best SR character, actually, to be fair, because she is very good at spamming her ultimate, called Windstorm. As her passive, basically when she uses Airball, Wind Shear, Air Cutter, or Wind Vortex, she recovers 8% of her power gauge, and then she just flat straight up just decreases her ultimate cooldown by 30%. So then when you stack that with the ultimate gear set, where you can decrease it by another 40%, it means you can just spam it a ton. And then she also applies the Breeze effect on a support skill, increasing your ultimate skill damage, so great for Jinwoo. So yeah, not really too much to say apart from that just she likes to spam her ultimate a ton, so for me that's going to put her straight into the A tier, as your ultimate skills is where you get a lot of your damage, so, and because that she generates power gauge very quickly and easily, as well as decreasing her ultimate cooldown, yeah, she's going to be really good. Alright, Kim Sang-shik, and Kim Sang-shik is another defense scaler, but it's a wind tank this time, and unfortunately for a tank, his break damage is just very, very small, being light break damage on all three of his ways to deal break damage. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Doesn't really do anything too much. He just decreases cooldowns of Storm Split, which is this skill right here, so you can get some extra break damage with that, but yeah, there's not really much else to say. So Insta D tier. Kim Chul is next, and Kim Chul is probably one of my favorite SR hunters in the game. I think he's actually really good, as he has a ton of break damage with his skill right here, has a ton of stunning, does more damage to stun targets as well, and yeah, he also applies, I think, defense increases as well as a shield, and also just damage reduction for your whole party as well. So amazing character, and that's pretty much all he does. Just applies shields to, and damage reduction and stuns, mainly for his stuns, to be honest, and that's pretty much it. So I think overall that's going to put him in the B tier, because I don't think he's as good as Nam Chae-young is or Park Hee-jin, but I think he's still a really good tank. Alright, Yoo Jin-ho is up next, and Jin-ho is also sort of like I guess a baby version of Kim Chul, I guess you could say. But what Jin-ho gives your team that Kim Chul doesn't is also potions that can help restore your HP, which you can also apply through his support skill and other stuff like that. He applies defense increases to himself, which is nice, as well as stunning, which is also pretty good. And then also some light break damage with his core attack, whilst being able to apply light and medium break damage on his basic skills. So I do think Jin-ho is better than these two characters here, but I do think he's worse than Kim Chul, but I think I'm still going to put him on the B tier, because I think he is much better than all these characters down here. Q-hwan is a light mage character, and yeah, there's not really a whole lot to say about this guy, as he gives himself an attack buff when attacking burn targets, which he pretty much just applies through a lot of different ways, through his QTE, support, and also ultimate skill. And then all his skills do are just damage, and then his second basic skill just does 25% more damage to burn targets, which for me is probably going to put him in the D tier, just because there's nothing really special about him, and I wouldn't really recommend using him ever, especially because we got this guy right here, Kang Tae-shik. And Kang Tae-shik is a dark assassin type, and he has a very good and consistent way of being able to apply bleeds onto enemies and bosses through just using his skills, pretty much, as he applies it through his QTE and then both of his regular skills as well. And yeah, pretty much all he does is just a lot of damage, and he's sort of a character that definitely comes alive with dupes more so. So overall, I'd say just flat, I'd probably put him B tier, I'd say. But I think with dupes, he's definitely one of the best SRs in the game. But again, I think without dupes, he's definitely still decent, but I'd still put him B tier. And then the very final character on this list is Hwang Dong-suk. He is a dark tank character, and I guess the main, good thing about Dong-suk is he's one of the only characters, or well, pretty much the only accessible character that can deal break damage of the dark element. As he, obviously being a tank, he has light break damage on his core attack, and then he has light break damage on his basic skill enhancement, and then also heavy break damage on Scorching Shield. So for me, overall, I think that gives him a decent amount of usages, especially because he's one of the only dark breaking characters in the game. So for me, I'm also going to put him in the B tier. Alright, so that is my complete tier list of every Hunter and Solo Leveling Arise just before the global version is about to release. It's so soon, I cannot wait for it to come out. It's going to be amazing. And also don't forget to like and subscribe as it helps a ton, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!